One time, me and Bill had you
Why did you guys let me unpause? Why did you guys let me unpause? What are you doing here? I'm not making a video today. Go home, watch something else. You wanna know why? You wanna know why? I shouldn't have to give you a reason. I should be able to just chill in my own home. Alright, fine, I'll tell you why. Urbanspook has been a core fixture of this channel since the very beginning. Like, this is some certified hood classic horror. Like, when you're out and about in your local academy and you see a group of scholars amongst each other, you know, some real intellectual types, in between debating the ethics of neutrino bonds, they're gonna ask themselves, now how did Mona Linnaeus kill so many people when she has the build of Elber the android? My old video on Urbanspook was actually the thing to jumpstart my channel in the far back times of 2024. I believe an ancient scholar named Zumakali's actually foretold of the day that I would post that video. Not many people know that. I've referenced it in almost every upload since. People in the comments are always bringing it up, and now that the finale is finally released and I watched it with all of you guys in my biggest live stream ever, I am so happy to say that I will not be making a video on the Urbanspook finale. I'll tell you why, but first, I gotta make sure I can pay off this first edition Mona Linnaeus reprint. This video is sponsored by Aura. We've all been there. You're perusing the internet, looking up info on your newest white whale you can't afford. Then you get to a sketchy website that requires you to put in your email. You do it without thinking twice, but then... Hello?
Hey, can I have your credit card number?
No.
Are you sure?
Suddenly you're receiving dozens or even hundreds of spam calls because your info was sold to data brokers from that sketchy website. And this is more than just a minor annoyance. I've missed some really important phone calls because I just default to declining every unknown number and... No, not my painting! But with Aura, you can put a stop to it. With their data broker removal tool, they take care of the hard part of removing your info from these sites. It's like you have your own personal Mona Linnaeus ready to... those silly little data brokers. They also give you updated alerts on the security of your data, so you can find out about leaks and breaches long before the harm is done, and take steps to protect yourself. You'll get alerts if your personal info is found on the dark web, real-time fraud alerts for credit and banking, 24/7 monitoring to keep your data secure, plus other useful features like a VPN, antivirus, password manager, and more. So if you're ready to protect yourself and your data, visit aura.com/AnthonyGallego for a 14-day free trial. This painting cost me $680,000. I'm never going to be able to recover from this. God, fucking Urbanspook. Fucking painter. Glad I'm not making a video on this stupid fucking finale. So here's why. In November of 2022, a video was posted called Faces to the channel called Urbanspook. A man started converting a stockpile of 10 VHS tapes that he had found in the basement of his apartment, and that is the video we're seeing. Don't forget that. 6 months ago, police found 3 paintings in an abandoned storage area, each titled after recent murders, and already we are seeing the masterful writing of the Urbanspook series on display. 6 months before when? 6 months before Arbor Day? Oh, you must mean 6 months before the ancient oracle Zumakali's predicted these tapes would be found. The first victim was Carl Gray, who was found with 346 stab wounds to the face and all of her teeth removed. This led detectives to conclude that the painting titled Carla's Teeth might be related to the murder. But it gets worse because the second victim, named Jackie, was found drowned with 27 wounds to the perineum because this video was posted to youtube.com as an April Fool's prank. The next victim was very tame by comparison, only having his wrist slits and face torn off, resulting in a painting that looks like it'd be a mural at the Jersey Shore Carnival, right next to the rat-themed superhero statue that exists for some reason. See, this is what the video is actually about, but I have to set the scene with this bullshit first. Months later, several more paintings turned up, but they were unrelated to any crime, so I guess whoever painted these just did it because it was funny. But it gets worse, because after going public with this information, photos were mailed to the police department of each of the murdered victims we just covered. They then reveal one final painting that was found, titled Self-Portrait, displaying a scary red man with long black hair. Now I'm serious this time, do not forget that detail, I swear to God I will come to your house. And now we move on to the second episode. This is where things get a little violent. 4 weeks before Officer Bill Collins went missing along with his wife and children. Turns out, the painting of the scary red man I just told you about was found inside of Bill's home. But how could that be possible? Well, you see, Officer Bill Collins grew up in the St. Helena orphanage where he met an inbred girl named Mona Linnaeus, and the two of them formed a sibling-like bond. But Mona wasn't like other kids. The two of them got in trouble for stitching animals together and messing with a kid named Fred Baker because he was a pussy.
fucking pussy. Fucker told on us.
Small Linus is a funny guy.
One time, me and Bill had the orphanage dog.
Why did you guys let me unpause? Why did you guys let me unpause? I don't have time to reset after every insane thing she says. I unpause and it just gets worse every time. Woman moment. You put those words back in your mouth. While Bill eventually grew up and drifted apart from Mona to lead a straight and narrow life, he was never fully able to escape Mona's grasp, hence the murder painting being left in his home. But it gets worse, because upon searching Bill's house, they find his 2-month-old daughter hanging from her neck in the attic, even though earlier they said both his daughters were missing because they forgot. 2 days later, Ice Ice Baby is still going strong in the Billboard Top 200. And also, Bill's family car was found by the ocean side, with a painting inside of a long-necked baby. And now, this is just a theory right now, but I'm starting to think the paintings might be related to the murders. They then search a nearby lighthouse with another painting of a scary red man out front, and the charred corpse of a missing teenager named Daniel Williams. Now, this detail you actually can forget because I'm pretty sure Urbanspook forgot it right after he wrote it. Moving deeper into the underground tunnels of the lighthouse, passing more charred corpses, they find a foul-smelling barrel, and inside, they find the ground-up and mangled remains of the Collins family. But it gets worse, because surrounding the barrel are photos of the family before their deaths that look like they were made by the same people who did the fucking Lawnmower Man box art. In episode 3, we're introduced to the child twins, Corey and Margaret Beck, and I don't want to talk about this episode anymore. In episode 4, we are introduced to the main driving force of the series, private investigator Shaun Kaine, a man, nay, a legend, dedicated to justice, now using his years of experience in the field to help police solve these absolutely vile crimes and bring the killer to justice. Oops, Shaun died. Police arrive at the scene to find Shaun's body gone, a painting left at the scene titled The Man in the Pipes, and Shaun's dog laying on the ground with all its legs broken because I think this series was made as a dare. The location of Shaun's body would later be found deep within a sewer system underneath the killer's secret lair, so I guess calling him the Man in the Pipes was rather subjective. We then hear about the murder of Tom Harris, who was found in his apartment inside a pile of wax. And inside the wax, his arms were cut off. His eyelids were cut off. His hair was cut off. And there was a third arm inside the wax. And they still don't know who the arm belongs to. However, their efforts were not in vain, as due to a number 2 painted in blood on the wall of Shaun's apartment, the officers are able to conclude that these tapes are actually taking place 6 months before the release of Spider-Man 2.
A car just hit that girl. She needs to go to the hospital. The pain. Make it stop.
And also there's 2 killers. 3 days ago, Tina Rosenberg was reported missing, along with her boyfriend and younger sister while they were on a South Coast road trip for her 20th birthday. Jack's car was found abandoned in the woods, and inside, a painting called Flower Face Flora. But it gets worse, because then the officers rush to the source of the scream, and they find Tina, tied to a tree with her feet and arms cut off, but still alive and conscious for some fucking reason. They also find Flora's corpse nearby, her head smashed in by a hammer. They then return to the car and find a new painting left there, called Long Jack. Jack's body wasn't found, however, because Urban couldn't think of a death that was funnier than this painting. Since Tina is the first victim of this serial killer to be found alive, through forensic sketches, the cops are now able to see what this menace looks like for the first time. If you ignore all those other times they saw the killer for the first time. The killer is described as a scary white woman with a cleft lip, not a red man. And you might be thinking, oh, if there's 2 killers, then the other one must be the red man. But no, the other killer is a zombie wearing a Joker mask. Because you see, the red man is actually a mental manifestation within the mind of Mona Linus, being caused by sonic pressure that is being emitted from Beats pills buried deep within the earth, disguised as ancient religious statues that Mona believes were planted by the deep state government, and is a thing that convinces her to commit murders.
What can I say? It's that damn machine. They put it in the ground, and with sonic pressure they manifested a red man.
A red man?
A red man.
A rat man?
He's the one who makes the paintings. He gives me a face and a name, and then he tells me who to go and get.
This is all information we find out about in the finale, but you wouldn't know that because I'm not making a video about it. Episode 6. What the fuck? I can't say all that. Now in episode 7, this is where I feel like Urbanspook really hit his stride, is we not only have the fucking painting, but we also have real voice acting. This one getting murdered by apology, and the desperation of Kaine, the voice is so epic. Can anyone actually hear me? This is actually like really fucking well. Hello? No, this is Anthony. In episode 8, I immediately got hit by a content warning from YouTube itself, so you know this is going to be a good one. Finally, in the 9th episode of this series about discovering ancient VHS footage, we actually get ancient VHS footage. Police find the evil lair of the serial killers hidden within an old textile and paint factory, and slowly walk through examining every inch of the carnage on display. They find the missing remains of the twins from earlier that I refuse to talk about, and a photo collage of a man in a funny gimp suit. You know what? That genuinely unsettled me. Proceeding deeper into the lair, they find more corpses in various states of mutilation and decomposition, some genuinely disturbing and some just kinda comical. But it gets worse, because they then come to a nook with words scribbled on the wall that were the same words used by Tina Rosenberg in a post-game interview talking about the murders. Presuming this to be a threat on Tina's life, G.I. Joe Commando Nathan Cole is deployed. He enters the premises to discover that it was in fact a threat on Tina's life. He enters the house to a gruesome scene. A woman lying dead in the kitchen, a trail of blood leading from Tina's empty wheelchair to a bedroom down the hall. He enters the room to find the two killers looming over Tina. The zombie working for Mona lunges at Officer Nathan, but he shoots him in the head, neutralizing him, and revealing that his identity was actually Bill Collins? Turns out, Bill Collins never actually lost contact with Mona Linnaeus, and after reconnecting many years later, she put a mask on him and made him put boots on his hand in order to break his mind and bring him back over to her world and join her in terrorizing Louisiana and killing dozens. Once again, this is all information we find out about in the finale that I refuse to believe exists, and you should too. With Bill neutralized and Officer Nathan entering Prestige, Mona Linnaeus is apprehended. Tina Rosenberg is brought to a hospital to treat her injuries, and paramedics rush to the scene to try and resuscitate Bill, but unfortunately, after having his face torn off, his arm cut off and sealed in a pile of wax, and being shot directly in the head and killed, Bill Collins didn't make it. And that is where the story of Urbanspook sat for over a year. Until New Year's Eve 2025, the 10th and final episode of the Urbanspook series was uploaded, titled The Painter. Finally, you would see the culmination of everything Urbanspook had worked for, all the skills he picked up, all the breadcrumbs he had left in the story. We were finally going to see his magnum opus. I didn't like this video, and that's why I'm not making a video on it. Bye bye! Alright, fine. I know that you guys are true intellectuals and you need more substantiation to back up my stance on this finale. So, in order to explain why I'm not talking about the Urbanspook finale, I will now talk about the Urbanspook finale. Are you following me? My biggest problem with how much of a wet fart this ending is was how happy Urban seems to be about it. I mean, you can see it in his Q&A.
I wanted a very unsatisfying and anticlimactic ending from the very start. Some of that sounded pretty hard, but I think I managed to do it.
Now, I'm all about respecting artists' intentions, and I'm happy for him that he ended the series on his own terms and was happy with how it came out. I also feel I'm allowed to criticize when those intentions are fucking stupid. Urban has already demonstrated that he has the ability to create genuinely disturbing and traumatic imagery on the level of something like The Lawnmower Man. He gives us this absolutely delicious, decadent meal, but then rips it away from us at the last second and says, no, you don't get that. What you get is 5 seconds of actually interesting footage, and then 7.5 minutes of Mona Linnaeus rambling like a 4chan femcel. But you don't even get footage of that. You just have to stare at this one painting of her that looks like Shelley Duvall on Fent. In the past, Urbanspook has denied claims that he doesn't care about the series, with people saying that he's just doing it so that he can sell enough t-shirts to make a Statue of Liberty-sized monument of Mona Linnaeus eating a man's head. But despite this denial, I feel like this ending shows that to be exactly the case. And it's not even because I think Urban is a bad writer or that this finale has nothing good or redeeming about it, because I think there are legitimately some tasty little nuggets in here. Now, don't get me wrong, we ain't talking no beef Wellington prepared by the beef master himself, Guy Fieri. I'm talking like finding a McDonald's chicken nugget after starving in the woods for 3 days. After being taken into custody, Mona is interviewed by a detective named John. No last name, why would there be? And there's this line when she's talking about her childhood with Bill that I honestly found really compelling.
There was a sundown once. You know, one of them really red ones. I remember he pointed at it and said, "That's where the devil is." Then he took my hand and we ran towards it, like two kids in the devil's backyard. Did we ever catch up? Damn, you tell me.
Now, while I would have loved to have seen this represented visually, I think there's also something about hearing it spoken through Mona's voice that really adds something. In her voice, you can almost hear the slightest bit of nostalgic sadness that only a childhood memory can evoke. But the fact that the context around that memory is so disturbing, there's a real darkness in the scenario that I feel like wasn't tapped into nearly enough before we get into the...
Did you know the convulsions of dying people makes for great vibrators?
What is happening? I'm losing my fucking mind. We're over halfway through this video, and it's just been this woman fucking spewing out shit that you'd read on 4chan at 3 a.m. What is happening? The final boss of 4chan femme says, you know, you might be onto something there. Listen, man, if Urban finds this stuff funny, or his audience finds it shocking and peak horror, then so be it. I just think it's so cringe, man. And trust me, I know about cringe. Just watch my videos from February to March of 2025. Unwatchable. If I was an Autobot, I'd be cringeivus prime. Can we actually edit that joke out of the video? What I'm saying is that there was some real untapped potential in this interview section that wouldn't have taken any extra effort. It just needs extra care.
You were denied a court hearing because you tried to smuggle a grenade
Through my pussy. Fuck.
Come again? Come again?
Would have gotten away with it. Wouldn't that be something? Big
Yeah, sure, whatever.
pussy. Boom.
Urbanspook must have thought that line went so hard. Thought that line went fucking crazy. Big pussy boom. Wow.
Was that something that the Red Man demanded as well?
Nah. That was just a fun idea I had.
I made the joke at the very beginning of this interview, but it really is holding true that she really did all of this just because she thought it was funny. I think if that one aspect was given more attention and care, then I would have a completely different view of this ending, and I would actually make a video about it. While I think it's goofy as hell that this finale is the first introduction of the concept that the Red Man is a mental manifestation caused by a deep state funded machine underground that is acting upon this inbred orphan specifically, I honestly don't think it's a bad idea on its own. And I think there were really a lot of avenues this idea could have been explored. In a way, it kind of reminds me of The Martian Mindhunter, one of the most expressive and artistic DC comics of the decade. There were a lot of places you could go with this concept in terms of representing it visually, but once again, that's just not something Urban really cared about. It was always about the paintings first and the series second, when I just don't think it had to be that way. Obviously, as an animator, I'm biased, but I think the fulfillment and artistic expression Urban gets out of making these paintings is absolutely something he could get out of the motion picture side of things. I mean, he clearly has an interest in it. I mean, just look at the setup he uses to convert all this into VHS. Like, this shit is crazy. But don't get me wrong, I don't want to get into how you would implement that kind of visual storytelling into this series because, frankly, I don't have the same artistic sensibilities as Urban, so I don't know what he would find most fun or engaging. So, I guess the only advice I would have is to just keep the film aspect in mind for whatever he works on next. Make it a narrative that you can represent visually in a way that's more engaging than just white text on a screen, and more fun and fulfilling for you to create. I also was expecting the video to be a lot more gruesome than it was. Like, that's kind of been the whole brand of the series and why it got so popular, so the fact that for the most part that violence is completely absent here is kind of a shame. That would have been really funny. Like, for the last episode, I would have thought Urban would go all out. No pixelation, no restraints. He tries making something so horrific and brutal that the YouTube CEO struts in like Vince McMahon and takes down his entire channel himself. But no. The most we get is a small shot of what seems to be a decapitation, and that's about it. We get the interview where Mona reveals her history and the true expanse of her crimes is revealed to the world. She's then stabbed to death by another inmate, and that is where the tale of the painter ends. Until sometime after Mona's death, paintings started appearing across the entire continental US. Forensic analysis reveals that these paintings were all made by the same person and bear the same handwriting as Mona Linnaeus. And in correlation with the new paintings, numerous individuals have gone missing. Because you see, Mona Linnaeus never was the corporeal being we saw committing these heinous crimes. She was always the mental manifestation of the JVC speakers scattered across the entire continental United States area. And now, her consciousness is free to possess whoever she pleases and wreak havoc on a scale never seen before. And we get to see a glimpse at that mayhem through a 5-minute long painting montage set to music that sounds like a fucking office building being set on fire. All my life, I've been teaching the innocent to the ways of the world. My life has been teaching it pretty much until this point. Am I even alive? This is fucking terrible. What the fuck, man? I can't just breathe anymore. This is just too long. Oh hey, I actually kind of like that painting. Lord have mercy on my soul. I've been condemned to watch this stupid fucking scene for the next 7,000 years. And the final painting, titled Self-Portrait, reveals the true villain that's been lurking in the shadows for the entire series. Ratman.